Welcome to Access Europe for July, and today I'm very pleased to welcome two presenters from Germany, Olaf Nöhring and André Minhorst, who are going to be in turn doing two separate presentations. And in order to move things along quickly, I'm going to keep this really short, get them to introduce themselves. Olaf, are you ready to start?
Yes, thank you, Colin, and I am happy to be here tonight. I want to build up on something that originally was not my own, but you will see that in a second. I'm just going to share my screen, have a presentation first, and then I'm going to do a demo. This is what you're going to get today and which you can download for free afterwards. The improved enhanced message box. And let's see what it is all about. We all have the standard message box, and we know it's used in every single application. This is one of the, I think, very important pieces and bits and pieces, small but useful, but very limited as well. I've listed some shortcomings here. And for this, there was a guy, Renaud Bompuis, I think, from France, who developed his enhanced message box 14, 15 years ago already. And he had it on his website under the GPL. So that was our luck. I was in need for a better message box one day because I needed some more functionality. And Renault's enhanced message box had some of that. So we get a message box where you can copy and save the message that is shown. You have a consistent design which fits in the regular MS Access applications. You can delay the buttons so the user has to read the message. One great thing I think is rich text, of course, with all the limitations in MS Access, but still you can have different fonts, you can have different font sizes, you can have color, you can have background colors. You can also have, the last bullet point here, Unicode support. So different characters are no problem. You can have a very large amount of text being displayed. There are numerous customization options. Then I took that message box and enhanced it and improved it a little more. You can download on the links here. They both lead to the same page. The improved enhanced message box should work on all access versions from 2010 to today. It should work on 32 and 64-bit, and it can be used free for private and commercial use. And what did I do? I improved it so you can use a wizard, or actually a wizard is always being used to create the VBA code for you to make use of the message box, of the formatted message box in your code. You design the message box in a extra form, click on create or show me the message box. And if it's fine, you just hover over to the different register where the code is sitting there just to being copied. Paste that into VBA and you're all done. You can set, that's what all these are improvements by me. You have custom default buttons. So you're not limited to those buttons Microsoft thinks you might need. You can have 3 different buttons with different descriptions on them. You can have an auto close. And probably this is something everybody knows. You start something in Access, which takes a while. So the user hovers off, gets some coffee, and suddenly the message box pops up for whatever reason, maybe an error occurred, and is waiting for user input. So the auto close enables you to put a delay of whatever kind of seconds, and then the box closes choosing the default button. And remember, you can say what's the default button. So maybe it's an error, but you will be able to continue the code anyways. You have also delay enabled. So sometimes it's necessary that the user is forced to read what's shown to him and not to be clicked away very fast. So delay the buttons for 5 seconds. The user has 5 seconds before he's actually able to click on anything. In older versions, there was the problem that there may have been too many line breaks. I think that has been removed. This is avoid long text code, but still doesn't hurt to use that anyways. You have custom color buttons. You define them either with RGB values, or you can use hexadecimal values, which are calculated to RGB values in that customization form. You have hover effects like you know from the internet, and the form or the message box is actually modal or non-modal. So actually your code can run while the message box is shown. You can define that state with a single click in the form. And this is how the form looks like. You design your message in the upper part. You use the rich text area in the ribbon, or that one that pops up when you mark some text with, and then you can use the right button to apply some formatting. Usually, I didn't change too much in Renaud's original layout. So the box, the button on the left, standard message box, will show you that message you entered in the standard message box. You usually want to use the enhanced rich text box on the right side, the button, but also when you press the button, creates your code. I will demonstrate the workings in a minute. This is everything you need to create a very nice looking message box, which is really flexible. So what does it do when you click on the enhanced rich box button? Then it should look like this. This is the result of what I did there. You can see I prepared different colors for the buttons. There is an auto close on the right button right now. On the left side, now the buttons are disabled. The timer can be shown until when it's going to be enabled, or it must not be shown. You can use quick access like the Alt key plus what keys you want. On the left side, the buttons are copied to clipboard or save the message as a text file, and that it is. Also, this is the code has been automatically generated in the moment you press the button to show the message box. So you just go ahead, copy that to your VBA, and you're ready to roll. One thing I want to point out already is that all the message is defined in line 4 here. It's a regular string, so it can be very easily parsed through some function or something like that. So it's very dynamic. Of course, you could put it in line 6 down there where it says str message, but I don't think that's worth it anymore. What do we need to use that enhanced message box? Just those 4 objects. If you download the zip file, you get an ACCDB database, you get a PDF file, which shows the original page from Renaud with some more explanations, of course, of his version at that time. And you get a source TXT file, I think, with a link to Renaud's page. So you have 2 forms and 2 modules. Actually, most of the code is in the dialog module. That's Renaud's naming. I added the module color handling for the buttons as an extra one. I didn't want to implement it in the dialog box. There are no more references needed than you probably have anyways in your Access database. I'm working on a 64-bit version. No problem here. And funny thing, before I come to the demo, I just Googled for ugly Access message box. You see what comes up. It's the improved enhanced. So maybe it's ugly. I'm not sure about that. You will have to see yourself. I'm going to switch over to Access now, and I will show you what are the possibilities. And we're going to take a quick peek into the code afterwards. But let's see. These are the 2 boxes, the 2 forms. The test form is the one which you use to build your message box. And the other one will be the message box. Looks like this right now, but it doesn't. It is of any interest for us now. So there is a standard message in here. Just click on it. What happens? There it is. So it made a beep sound, which I can disable here as well. Now when we go and format this, no problem. I have the other options here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. I think this is too small anyways. To 12, you know the deal. This could be another color. Yeah. And you use the box title. Check it out. Oops, that looks weird. This is a known problem. But no big deal. I described it on the website, but you can fix it pretty easily by adding some more line breaks in the end. I'm gonna do some more, and then message box looks fine. So I don't know what's the problem with calculating the size of the form here, but you can make it work this way. So let's see what we have here. We have the enable buttons. So now the button is enabled right away. I can click on it. If I put on some number here and leave the field, I get a show countdown If I click, now the countdown is shown, 5, 4, 3. I would suggest you show the countdown if you don't enable the message box or the buttons directly, because now the user doesn't know if he has to wait 5 seconds or 500 seconds. So that might be counterproductive. So I'm going to put that on again. I can take a different default button. No, I can't, because actually we have only OK only. This is what we see here. I have to switch that again. So there's a little error handling. If somebody of you downloaded the version 1.4 yesterday or before, there's another bug that I fixed yesterday evening. So 1.5 is the latest version. Or I do custom buttons. Some other button. Check it out. There are my 3 buttons. And they are enabled. I'm going to disable the enable. The B is underlined here, and here the T is underlined, so we can use those. When you press a button, you can see already here in the upper right corner the result, the button returned. So that's very easy to react on that. I can also disable that button, the second button. If it's empty, then there will be nothing. So let's see again, look like this. Now I wanted to disable the delay. I'm gonna put the 0 again. And you can do the colors. If I put in some hex color, let's see. You see the color is immediately colored that way. And you have the hover effect, like a preview, and the same you will find here. Default button is this one here. And now let's do the auto close. Let's quickly look at the right area here. So far it was information. We can do one of the other icons we need, regular icons. I disabled the beep. I think you can't hear it right now anyways. The show clipboard and save file button. I call it up again. Those are those 2 buttons here. I'm not going to use them right now because you can't see it. You have to test yourself. But I'm going to put them away. Keep raw text. You can use /n/n. You see it's displayed here. If you turn it off with the \n, you will create a new line. So this might be useful if you have different fonts or UTF characters. So let's check out the auto close. I'm going to put it on 3 seconds so it's not too long. Default button is button number 1 right now. And you see there will be a countdown, 3, 2, 1, 0, box closed with button number 1. As a result, now we changed that to the left button, so it's a green one here. Green one is default, you can see it, it's dotted. Oh, and description was so long, I'm gonna make that shorter. The countdown wasn't shown, usually countdown should be shown, but there was the countdown. So the box right now is not modal, you can see that. I can move the box and I can move this. And the box is gone. If I do the box modal, click it in, I can move the box, but I'm unable to move the form. So just regular behavior. That one you would expect. Oh, I entered the hex code. Of course I can enter RGB code. And it will be translated to the hex code. So, and the big thing, which I think, which I like very much, is you get the button code here. Of course, I changed the color now. I should once click that button again. I'm not going to do anything. The auto closed after 3 seconds with button 3. And this is the code that I can now just copy to my VBA. And if I create a new module here to demonstrate that, I paste that. It says create 2 variables. Okay, we have to do that. And we're gonna, whoop, did I have something wrong? Oh, I killed the T. So let's run the code. Here's my message box, and this is generated by code now. I will show that to you. It's not generated by this. And I will just add here not too late forwarding. Let's do it again. There is the message box. So I think this is a very nice extension. It's so easy to put into your own code. I think you get the point, and I hope you can use the message box. Again, it's free. Just go to my website, download it. If you have feedback, very much appreciated. If you have any ideas, what else should be implemented, let me know. And this was it for my part of the presentation, I would think. I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you ever so much, Olaf. That was excellent. I've put the links that you gave earlier in the chat, and there are 3 questions so far from Tim Finch. So I'm going to, rather than read them out, I'm going to pass over to Tim. If you'd like to quickly skim through those, Tim.
Olaf, thanks so much. We've actually corresponded very briefly in the past on this project that you very kindly resurrected and brought forward, so thank you. In the example code on one of your slides, one of the parts had numbers 1024 plus 2 or something like that. I'm assuming that was referring to what options should show in the box. Are there constants that can be used instead? So that's question number 1.
I think there are. I'm just skimming through the code. I'm not sure. Just continue with the second question. I'm gonna see if I can answer your question better.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no, sure. So one of the benefits clearly is the bigger text. That's one of the massive issues with the message box, particularly if you're on 4K screens. The message box just seems to get smaller and smaller as screen size and pixel sizes grow as the years go by. Clearly, the Access team have done nothing to improve the message box in the last 20 years. I just want to know, maybe Colin could pop in on this one as well, but does the enhanced message box respond to the form resizing facility that Colin has? So, we can get Access databases resized dynamically to screen sizes if we wish. And I'm just wondering whether the message box responds to that as well, or maybe it hasn't been tested yet.
And you're talking about the original message box?
No, this new one, whether if we're scaling forms dynamically as people run Access on different screen sizes, whether the message box would respond accordingly, or whether we'd end up with a situation where it's ultra massive on one display and then quite small on another.
I think, unless Olaf knows otherwise, I think the answer is not what you want to hear, that just like ordinary message boxes do not respond to automatic form resizing, I don't think this will either. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think so. It's partly for that reason that I often use customized message forms instead, which of course do respond to automatic resizing, so I doubt it.
Can I jump in here?
Yep.
Because yeah, it is actually a form if it's based on the original. So it should respond to the auto resizing without any problem.
I will try it later and let people know. Thank you for that, Peter.
Yeah, because I did quite a lot of work on it in the past because I themed it, would you believe?
Yeah, I can believe it. Right, so we can check that later anyway. So if it is a form, then you are probably right. It will do. Right, third question, Tim.
Thank you. So yes, I think something that I discovered when I downloaded version 1.23 of this enhanced message box some months ago, Olaf, I can see that you've come on now to 1.25, but you mentioned explicitly one of the issues I discovered very quickly, which is you have to put in these padding carriage returns at the bottom of the text when you're using bigger font sizes, because the box just doesn't resize big enough vertically. And the problem with that is if you're loading data dynamically from a table, maybe to show to the user, or do you want to go ahead with this, or yes or no. But of course, half of your text has come out of a record set. You don't know how many extra line breaks to put on. And so I had to quickly stop using it on that basis, which was a shame because, the problem with the message box is it's really tiny on big screens. And I'm just wondering why, surely there must be API calls that can be done to try and work out how much vertical space the box needs to be and resize it accordingly. Maybe that's just something that needs to be done at some time.
Yeah, maybe I was just too lazy. I didn't look into that because I just used the \n or just put some empty spaces, empty returns at the end, which always worked for me. Maybe it works when you scan the length of the text you're reading and you're displaying in the message box. You know, if you have like 100 characters, add one blank line. If you have 200 characters, add 2 blank lines. Maybe this could be some intermediate solution.
Yes, maybe something to play with there. But well, thank you. That was my questions. Thanks very much, Colin.
Your first question.
Do you mind if I just interrupt on that? I believe, and Colin can correct me if I'm wrong because he's here. Colin found a bunch of things and did a thing. He's got a web page on various API calls that can be run that actually return certainly the width, I think the height as well, of what is space is required for a certain text in a certain font. Is that not right, Colin?
The wizhook code can do that.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. I can talk to Olaf about that separately, but there is a web page on my, or 2 web pages on my website, the use of wizhook to determine the width and height of any font, whatever size it is, and whether you're using italic, bold, or whatever. But yeah, I'll come back to you on that, Olaf, and see if that helps.
Colin, let me just, the first question from Tim was the constants. I'm sharing my screen here, and you see it's just defined here. And of course, you could use VB custom.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Does the enhanced message box, does it work with Unicode fonts such as Malaya, Lamb, Chinese, Japanese, or whatever? Does it support those? Which a standard message box doesn't.
I'm pretty sure.
Yes, it does support, yeah.
Good.
I've used it with Japanese.
Lovely, thank you. I was going to say I had a solution for that if it didn't, but if it does, that's perfect. Right.
He was very strong on, Renaud was very strong on the Unicode, because I think he actually lived in Hong Kong. So he did a nice bit about the W API calls, a whole load of things with problems with the original, the VBA message box not showing things correctly. So
okay.
I'm sure it would.
Right, I've got one more question from Tim Jacobi. Background text was default black. I assume the font color can be changed to a darker background, be used with a lighter font for contrast. Did that make sense?
Sure, of course. You can change the font colors.
But can you change the background color as well?
The background color, yes, you can kind of change the background color. Let me share that. Let me share that again. I mean, you can see here in the example, that's the background color of the BA something.
No, I didn't know. He means the form background color.
Oh no, right.
Actually,
right now it doesn't support it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Actually, I was talking about the buttons. When you turned that one button really dark, it had the black.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
Font on, and so you couldn't see the button phrase anymore.
Actually, this is being calculated automatically now, so that there is some kind of, let me do that really dark again.
We're going to need to move on, Olaf, otherwise we're not going to have time for
It's dark,
André.
It comes a little lighter, so this, no, it's, right now it just changes on hover, but you will have to choose a color that people can see.
And one thing, I don't know if I ever mentioned this to you when I was talking about this with you before, color selector, rather than typing in the RGB or the hex values, having a color selector available so you could actually select from those values. It's fine if you know what the numbers are, but if you don't, color selector could be useful. All right, and my last question, did you ever manage to get hyperlinks to work within the message?
No, and I didn't try, because in one message there could be multiple hyperlinks. So we would need to know where the mouse is over, extract that from the text. And I didn't do that. It should be possible with one of the tricks we saw in another presentation here, where you know where your mouse is. Maybe that's possible, but I didn't work on that.
So there's still, although already absolutely excellent and full of features, various possibilities for future development work still to come. If anyone has any further questions, can you put them in the chat? We'll come back to you after André's presentation. Olaf, thank you ever so much. If people want to react and give their thanks, that would be wonderful. Okay, time for our next presenter. André, take it away.
Okay, hello everybody. Here we go. My name is André Minhorst. I'm born in 1971. I have a degree in mechanical engineering and I am a writer, programmer, and publisher since 1998. I've written more than 18,000 pages for magazines like this. And I've written some books like these. And moreover, I'm selling some cool access tools. And in this presentation, I will show you the newest tools, amvCalendar and amvExplorer. Why amvCalendar? Most applications work with appointments, for example, birthdays, orders, deliveries, or meetings. So why not show and manage your appointments right inside your Access application, where you also manage the other stuff? We will show you how easy this is with amvCalendar. amvCalendar consists of the following areas. We have a menu bar, a month overview, a calendar selector, a main calendar view, and a search box. So amvCalendar gives you different views. Day, the working week, the week, or the month. And we can use the slider to select dates or date areas. Moreover, we can switch the current month with it. Here you see what I mean. This is the day view, the view of the working week, 2 more days in the week view, and we moreover have the month view. So now you see what I mean with the date selector. Here you can select 3 days, for example, or 7 days in a row, or maybe 2 weeks. And of course, you have other possibilities. Here you can switch the month with the slider area. And that's it. We can use the month view with more than one calendar. The first option is the overlay view. It shows appointments from all calendars at once. Here we see it. We show the calendars in different views, and we can hide them again. The second option is called split view. It shows 2 calendars side by side. We have to add a second calendar, and then we click on split view, and we see both calendars at once. We can also change the second calendar like this. How can we use the overlay view? In the overlay view, we can change the date of an appointment by dragging and dropping it from day to day, for example. How can we use the split view? It works only when exactly 2 calendars are selected. And it only works in 64-bit or in 32-bit with enabled LAA mode. Split view can be used to move appointments from one calendar to another calendar. We see it here. We drag the appointment to the right, and it changes the color, so we see it's now part of the other calendar. We can also assign an appointment to another calendar by using the drop-down in the title bar. Therefore, we activate the appointment and choose the calendar it belongs to. How can we manage calendars? We can add a calendar by clicking on Add Calendar. We can also rename a calendar, and we can change colors with the context menu. Moreover, we can delete a calendar again. Here we see how this works. We add a new calendar, set the title, adjust the color, and save the calendar. We can activate and deactivate it. We can change the color of existing calendars. We can rename them. And of course, we can delete it again. We can mark an appointment as done. To do this, we use the context menu and we mark as done. The appointment will then be grayed out. With mark as active, you can reactivate it. So you click on the context menu, deactivate it, and you can activate it again. Working with categories. Normally, appointments in the calendar use the calendar's color as background color. But you can set a category for each appointment that will have its own color. Just select the appointment and choose the desired category from the menu. You can edit the categories by clicking on All Categories. Here you can add categories, delete them, or set their color. Here we see how you work with calendars, with categories. We change the category and manage them. We name a category. And we can change the color. So we remove the category again. And now the main point, working with appointments. We can add new appointments by double-clicking the appropriate day, for example, for a simple appointment from 8 to 8:30. You see how that works. We add a title, and then we just save the appointment to see it in the calendar. We can add new appointments via the context menu, for example, an all-day event. We click on New Event, enter title again, and then we activate the all-day property. We can add appointments that repeat on consecuting days by setting the same time, but using, for example, a 3-day period. So we add another day, set the title to 3-day period, or 3 days in a row, and change the date to 2 days later. And when we save it, we see that we have 3 new appointments. And we can also add recurring appointments, and therefore we add an appointment, enter the title, and after that we click on series, reduce the count to 3 events, set it to weekly, and when we save the event, we see another information about our recurring event, and there it is. When we delete it, we can decide if we want to delete only one event or all events in the series. Working with time zones. When we add a new appointment from 8 to 10 a.m. and change the time zone, for example, to Baku, the appointment will be set to 6 a.m. local time, 3 hours difference minus 1 day daylight saving time. Here we see how that looks. We add a title, then we click on time zones, choose another time zone. We see it is still set to 8 o'clock, but when we save the appointment, it says 6 o'clock. Now we could save the appointment as an ICS file via the context menu, but we can also drag it to the desktop or into another folder. Use the context menu entry, but we won't use this one now. Instead of that, we drag it on the desktop and see another context menu. And when we double click the file, we create a new Outlook item with our appointment. How can we delete appointments? There are different possibilities. We can select one or more appointments and use delete on the keyboard. We can use the menu button. We can use the context menu button. We can use the delete button in the overview of the appointment, and we can use the delete button in the detail view. Here are all the delete buttons in the context menu, in the overview, and one more in the details section. And here we click on it and delete the appointment. How can we see the details of an appointment without opening it? You don't have to open an appointment to see the details. We can also use the reading area when we click on reading mode. Then we see all the details at the bottom of the screen. Here we add a new appointment, add a title and a body text. Then we save it, and when we click on reading mode, we see all the details in the bottom area of the calendar. How can we search an appointments? We can just enter a keyword in a search text box and double click on one of the results to show the appointment details. Or we can use the context menu to open or to delete one of the entries. And we have more search options. For example, we can search only in the current calendar or all calendars. And we can search in all fields or only in one specific field, for example, in the title. Here we see the search bar. We enter a keyword. We see the results. By double clicking it, we see the appointment. And here are the other options, all calendar, one calendar, and we can choose one of the fields. Moreover, we can print calendars. With the menu item Start Print, we are able to print the current view. We can print a list or the current view, and even with the split view. And we can also create a PDF. So we activate split view, click on print, and see the list at first, and then we change to the calendar view. And via the context menu, we can create a PDF file as seen here. All right, what about scrolling? We are very proud of our scrolling features. We can scroll in all the single calendar views. The same works in overlay mode, and it also works in split view. Moreover, we have the Goto Date function in the context menu where we can scroll through the calendar. Here you see scrolling through the days, through the working week, the week, and the month. If we activate more calendars, this also works quite smooth. And it also works in the split view, although there are tons of controls. Okay, here we have another scrolling feature in the Goto Date feature. And that's it for scrolling. From calendar to calendar. When we place two amvCalendar applications side by side, they can show the same calendar. And we can copy and paste and cut and paste appointments from one calendar to the other. And this also works with drag and drop. And when we change the date of an item in one calendar, this will be synchronized after a few seconds in the other calendar. We can also drag and drop an appointment from the calendar on the left side to the calendar on the right side. Here you see two access windows, both with the same calendar. We can drag and drop from left to right and it will be synchronized. Even if we move appointments inside one calendar, this will be synchronized after a few seconds in the other. We can also drag and drop from one calendar to the other calendar. And the color changes, so we see they are placed in the other calendar. And that's it. amvCalendar is compatible with SQL Server. All data is stored in tables, so you can access it from other objects like forms, queries, or VBA code. The integration is very easy. You just add all objects of the demo and open the form cal_main. You get the full source code, so you can change everything. But unfortunately, you find amvCalendar here. But unfortunately, it is not for free. A single license is 99 euros. It is for one person or one workspace. And the ultimate license is 399. The ultimate license allows you to use it integrated in your own applications, and you can share these applications with as many people as you want. It just has to be integrated in your application. You can use the code AEU15 for 15% discount, but this is only for the ultimate license and only until July 31st in 2024. Now for the second tool, the amvExplorer. Why amvExplorer? We often have files that are related to the data we store in our databases. One typical example, customers. There we have invoices, orders, emails, and lots more documents, but this also applies to projects, products, and more. Where do we store the files associated to a customer normally? Usually in a subfolder named after the customer, product, or project name or number, and the files may be referenced in a field in a table of our database. Alternatively, in an order field or in an attachment field, but space in databases is limited, as we all know. When using a folder, how do we display these directories to see the data they contain when we are working with our database? Normally, we see the path in a text box, or when stored in an attachment field, we don't see the file at all. Inexperienced developers just open the Windows Explorer and navigate to the appropriate folder to look up the files. But more experienced developers could use commands like shell to open Windows Explorer and show the desired folder automatically. An example to open a specific folder with VBA is the following command. Maybe some of you know it. And we can use this command for a solution that is much better than to open Windows Explorer manually all the time. We would use a button to open a specific folder for the current customer. Then we would use code like this in order to do this. The code builds the path and checks if it already exists, and if not, it will create a path. And then the shell command will open Windows Explorer and show the path inside it. So this opens the folder in Windows Explorer. But wouldn't it be much easier if we could integrate Windows Explorer directly into an access form? What if we could show the corresponding folder for the customer product right in the form? This is possible when you use amvExplorer. Let's have a look how this works. What can we do with amvExplorer? We can show the appropriate folder for each customer. I show different customers, and there are different folders that are activated. When I add a new customer and save it, a new folder will be created and also be shown. When I change back, it will be still there. I can copy documents from one folder to another one, and so on. I can drag and drop files and folders from outside, so from desktop or other Windows Explorers. I can add files and folders with copy and paste. I can add emails from Outlook with drag and drop. And moreover, I can add attachments from Outlook with drag and drop. Here you see how that works. I add a folder, then I add a text document or mail, and this also works with attachments. So we can do more things. We can do all the stuff we can do normally in Windows Explorer. We can create new folders. We can rename files. We can rename folders. We can navigate to new folders or navigate back and forth. And we can use all the context menu commands we know from Windows Explorer. Use the context menu to add a new folder. Use a new folder. We can change the name. We can rename files. And of course, we can rename folders. We can double-click a folder and navigate back and forth. What do we need to do to implement amvExplorer in our own application? We need some objects that we find in the demo database, and we import them in our database by selecting all tables and all modules. That's all. And we are adding them to the current database. What do we need to implement amvExplorer in our own form? Therefore, we have to add web browser control, the old one. We name it, for example, Control Explorer, and then we add some code, starting with the event form open. Before we edit it, we add a variable that holds the class. Then we add the code for form open, which mainly sets a reference to the form and to the web browser control. Moreover, we need a form current event to requery the Explorer when we change our dataset. And of course, we need a sub that is called by form current. And here we just build the path and check if it exists. And if not, we build it. And then we use the method navigate to path to show the path in our Explorer. So we also need an unload event to destroy all objects we don't need anymore. And finally, some more event procedures like these that allow specific actions, for example, to set if we can drag and drop and so on. Moreover, we want to use the forward and backward buttons. We just have to set the properties control backward and control forward to the desired buttons. And we need some code to hide the control when we add a new customer. And that doesn't have an ID yet and makes it visible when the record is created, as I have shown before. But we won't look into this in detail. Using the watcher. This is very important. What is the watcher? The watcher is a timer that controls what happens in a specific folder. We can implement different events that fire when we, for example, add a file or a folder, if we remove files and folders, if we rename files and folders, and if we are changing the content of a file. So what do we need to use the watcher? We need to call the RegisterWatcher method when opening the form, and we need to terminate it when we close the form. Moreover, we need an event procedure for the event called WatchEvent. It comes with some parameters we can use to control what happens. Some parameters of the watcher event are the path. This is the path of the file or folder. The item name is the name of the file or folder. The item type gives us the type, if it is a file or a folder that we have moved or what we have done some operation on. And we have the parameter EventAction. And EventAction contains one of the following values. Modified is called when an element is changed. Added is called when an element is added. Removed when an element is removed. And the rename old and the rename new event is called when we rename an element. And we need the rename old to get the old name and rename new to get the new name of this renamed element. How can we use the watcher practically? For example, we can make backups of added files when they are added. We can extract content from Office documents when we drag them into the folder and write it into the database. We can write content from Outlook emails in tables, and we can create PDF documents from Word documents, for example, and many more. Maybe you have some ideas, then feel free to write them in the chat. Maybe we can program some more demonstrations. amvExplorer has a few more interesting features. All features are demonstrated in a form that comes with the demo database. At the bottom, we see the amvExplorer control, so the web browser control. We see all shell events that we can track with it. We see all the parameters of all events fired by the watcher. And we see some more properties we can use to disable specific actions. For example, we can make sure the user can only use the current folder, so he can't move to any other folder when he opens the folder, for example, for a customer or for a project. We can prevent dragging of the folder's items into other folders. We can prevent executing files by double-click, and we can prevent executing files by using the context menu. And we can prevent changing the view using the context menu. Moreover, we can prevent renaming items, so you can fully control what happens to the items that are shown in the Explorer. So that's all. amvExplorer can be used as a calendar in any application. The integration is very easy. As you have seen, you just add all objects of the demo and add some controls and some code to your form. You get the full source code, so you can change everything you want. You find amvExplorer here, and also amvExplorer is not for free, but a single license is only 69 euros, and the ultimate license is 249 euros. And we have a code here also. It's the same code, AEU15 for 15% discount until July 31st, 2024. That's it. Thank you very much.
André, thank you for an excellent presentation. My apologies for the internet problems at the start, and thank you to you and others for keeping the meeting going in my absence. There are a few questions in the chat. First question was from Tim Finch, and he said, can you live sync with Google Calendar?
We have a solution, but it is not ready for public use. Mainly, it will work, but it will take some time. It's possible, but it's very difficult to connect to Google Calendar with VBA. So we need VB.net, and we have to do some really complicated operations. And we are working on a good solution, and we hope it will work sometime.
Okay, thank you. Ben asked if this was purely Access and VBA. The answer I know is yes.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you. Right, Neil asked, and I know the answer to this, is there a preview pane functionality in the Explorer?
Excuse me, I didn't get that.
Yeah, in Explorer, you have the option of turning on a preview pane. I assume you can't do that in the browser control.
We just can show one folder, unfortunately.
But you can't preview a file within that folder.
No, that's not possible also.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Any other questions? D. Benham, your microphone is on. Did you have a question?
No, but apart from say, very impressive add-on. No, it wasn't unintentionally, Colin. My apologies.
I agree. They're both very impressive, and you will get full code if you buy either or both of these. Right.
Yeah, you will.
Okay. Thank you ever so much. Peter Poppe is a presenter for next month.
Okay, so I can share.
Right, over to you.
All right, let me just. I got one quick slide. All right, so as Colin said, Pete Poppe. On a lot of the forums, my logins, Maj P or Major P, retired military guy. Next month, August 7th, I'll be working with Treeviews and MS applications. Until you've used them, you don't know how much you missed. I know for me, there's certain applications that I have built in the past that conceptualizing information or displaying or easily working with information, I'm not even sure how I could have done it without the Treeview controls for certain applications. Unfortunately, there is no native control. It's an ActiveX control, and there's some third-party controls. So I do have a couple slides, Colin, I want to upload that will tell people ahead of time how to get it, register it, etc.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. And so that's it. And I'll be providing I've done a wrapper class, what I call it, because the Treeview controls are not really well reported on. There's not a lot of information. A lot of times it's trial and error, which you can find out on the internet. There's just not a lot of documentation. So what I did, because I've been using them a lot, is built this wrapper class that kind of encapsulates all the functions. So we'll be going through that. And then there's a couple other topics that are related. Treeviews are really good for showing hierarchical data, self-referencing data. We'll talk about that. And often in this type of data, recursion comes into place, and just touching on a little bit of how you can use recursion to traverse the Treeview and traverse the data in these hierarchical tables. And that's all I got, Colin.
Thank you ever so much. I think we answered all the questions from earlier. I'm getting the usual abuse about my internet connection, but understandably. And Frank, thank you ever so much for your contribution. I know you did a lot for both the calendar and the Explorer app. So thank you for your contributions. Much appreciated and very impressive.
Yes, thanks all for looking, and it's a nice time to do this little coding.
A lot of coding, very clever coding in the background.
Thanks a lot.
Olaf and André, thank you ever so much for your contributions. And we've got the link from Peter. Anything else you want to say, Peter?
But yeah, those instructions, it would be helpful to take a look at it because sometimes they are a pain to get loaded onto your computer.
Neil has asked if there's any chance of seeing the code behind the calendar in some depth. We could, obviously, if you buy it.
Yeah, I would suggest to buy one.
Okay. Jack Draw has just reminded me that Daniel Pinot has an article basically signing a petition to stop VB script being killed off. I think there's no chance it's happening. A bit like New Outlook is definitely happening. But if you go to his website, you'll be able to see the petition. Thanks again to Olaf and André for their presentations and to Peter for next month. Thank you also to the 30+ people who attended tonight. See you all next month.